Hello everybody, my name is Ivan Ethos, and welcome to Warframe in a nutshell with Oberon. Now, Oberon is often an underestimated Warframe, mostly because his skill set's a little bit fun, but also a little bit underwhelming at first. So we'll go ahead and show you the Lancers at level 30, we'll pause their AI. As our usual setup. Oh no, the edge is near. Ah! So we're going to boost the sound up a little bit so you can hear more sound effects. There we go. Alright. So Oberon, of course, I have no mods on Oberon himself. My other weapons I do, which unfortunate, but... So, we're going to look at Smite first. We're going to break down Smite. So Smite says it focuses deadly energy within a target and then projects it outwards. It basically causes someone to explode with energy, right? Damaging both the target and surrounding enemies. So the initial damage is 500, which is, to be fair, a fairly high damage number for a first ability. And this is rank 3. The orb damage is 150, and the orb damage percentage is 35%. Now, the orb damage percentage, I'm not exactly 100% clear on. But it seems to be the damage that it deals of the initial damage, roughly. Which I guess can change. The number of orbs, which is 6, the orb range, which is 12.5 meters. So basically, 6 enemies within 12.5 meters will be attacked by these orbs. And finally, a range of 50 meters. So I can cast the ability from 50 meters. So let's take a look at what this does. Now, if you watched carefully... You'll see the little, there it is, that little trace line that was traveling outward. That was, of course, my orb. Now, if you notice, the first target gets affected by, well, thank you, Kavat. Love you. So if you notice, the first one was affected by radiation, which is a really nice proc to have on most enemies. Now, with that being said, Smite won't kill level 30s. It will damage them quite a bit. But one of the nice things about his first ability is the fact that it does apply that radiation proc. So now his second ability is Hallowed Ground, which sanctifies the ground before him with righteous fire, inflicting damage to any enemies descending to the flames. Now, one other thing to pay attention to is actually, I've read his passive. His passive has been changed a lot over the years. His current passive is allied pets receive health, armor, and shield buffs. In addition, your pet receives an instant revive per mission, making it a lot easier to revive your pet. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a sickness too. I've been having some congestion from the cold weather changes. So his second ability is this. As you can see, it's kind of hard to see sometimes. It has like this kind of, basic thing, but it does apply radiation effects, and as you can see, it does tick pretty dang well. For even at a basic level, it can do quite a bit of damage. So, something to keep in mind is the second ability can be used to maintain defense objectives and excavators and stuff like that fairly easily, even up to, well, level 30 plus enemies. Now, the second ability is a little bit harder to see. So, sorry, third ability is a little bit harder to work with. So I'm gonna actually kill these enemies off. Unpause the AI there. Now, I'm going to show you the third ability before we use it. So, third ability is Renewal. A lot of people know about Renewal. So, Renewal states that healing waves of energy flow outward from Oberon to his allies, regenerating health over time. So, the radius of this ability is 25 meters. Its duration is 4 seconds. Its initial heal is 125. So, when you first cast this ability, it heals everything for 125 health, which is pretty good. And then the health per second is 40. The bleed out slows 45%. So if someone dies under Renewal's effects, they actually get an increased duration on their bleed out. It also provides 200 armor, but the buff only lasts for 20 seconds. So your initial cast, you'll get this defense buff for 200 armor for 20 seconds. And then of course it's energy per second, which is 2, and energy per target, which is 3. So for me, if I just have it cast on myself and my pet, I am draining about 5 energy per second, 2 for myself and 3 for the other targets. This is a really nasty combination with Necros and his shadows, because it can keep them alive, but at the same time, it also massively drains his energy reserves. So we're going to go ahead and put this on, renewal. We'll simulate these enemies, and we'll jump down here. So we'll be able to watch how this kind of goes. See, my health is... I kind of feel like Kirito from Sword Art Online when he's just standing on the bridge and just taking names. So we're gonna go ahead and kill these guys off. Ah, there he goes. So one other fun fact about the orbs is they can actually hit the same target multiple times if there's no other targets available. Come on, buddy. You can go ahead and die now. There it goes. A little bit tricky. But as you can see, I have that 200 armor buff. And it will last for a few seconds. So we'll go here and reload everything. Now, we'll pause the AI again and we'll simulate. So now, Oberon's fourth ability is probably his strongest ability if I had to say that there's a strong ability. So, let's read it here quick, and then we can get into showing it. So the fourth ability is Reckoning, and Reckoning states, quickly lifts enemies into the air and then hurls them down with conviction. Enemies who succumb to this power have a chance to spawn a health orb, so enemies that die. Now it has a 15-minute radius, is 1250 damage at base at length 3. It does radiated damage. So this damage it does in a small AoE around each individual target, so that's a stacking splash. And then an armor reduction, blind radius, and blind duration. So on top of the smashy move, they also get blinded. And again, there's a 50% chance to drop a health orb. But the thing that's a big indicator for this ability's power is armor reduction by 30%. Yes, you can get it up to like 90 or maybe even 100%, I think it is, or really, really close to that. So basically, you Reckoning once, and enemies have like no armor. It's delightful. So we'll go ahead and show this now. As you can see, they did quite a bit of damage. Now, if I shoot this guy, you guys were watching my damage numbers before. I can actually kill 2 people in one clip instead of having to unload an entire clip or 2 into someone's face. And it is a permanent effect, so Oberon is sometimes used for big bosses that have high armor amounts, like the Hemocyte, like the Jordis Golem, like Alad V, people like that, because it makes them a lot easier to kill them. Now, since we've seen our 4 abilities, we're going to go ahead and get into a little bit of building him. Don't worry about how my grisly-looking visage. Don't worry about that. So, what do you build Oberon Prime? This is Oberon Prime. This is his stock setup. This is not anything special. How do you build someone like this? Well, you have the options of Steel Charge and Rifle Amp, Power Donation. I believe also Sniper Amp is another one you can use. Basically, yeah, Deadeye. And all the amps you can use, as well as Steel Charge. So anything that increases weapon damage. Or so melee weapon, sniper, shotgun, all the rest of them. There's a lot of different little auras that increase certain weapon damage. And they all can go here in the V polarity. So, what would I personally do? I personally throw on Steel Charge. If you have Steel Charge, if you have this V polarity, put it in there. Even if you don't, you can throw something else. Most people have Rifle Amp, so you can go ahead and throw that down in there. Now, in your Matter-Eye tree, because by the time you get Oberon, which takes a little bit of time because most of Oberon's parts come from the Void. So in order to get Oberon, you have to do a lot of Void missions or Void Fisher missions against corrupted enemies. So, which I'll go into a little bit more in depth later. So, what are we looking at here for the Matter-Eye? Most people who have them, I suggest Intensify and Continuity. These 2 abilities to kind of give you a little bit more of something. in the in your Vizarin polarity, you definitely should be throwing some stuff onto Oberon. If you have it, Vigor. If you don't have it, Vitality and Redirection, even Steel Fiber, do the trifecta. Because more often than not, he gets a pretty good bonus from that. He has a starting 225 armor, so he has the benefits of being able to use Steel Fiber to quite a good effect. There are some, of course, additional ones you can use, like Armor Agility or something, if you want to get a little bit of extra sprint speed and some higher armor amounts. Up to you. But for the most part, Vitality, Steel Fiber, those are going to be your big two, because for a lot of people, they will try to run him with Hunter Adrenaline or Rage for that health to energy transfer, the health damage to energy transfer. Because they often try to run him as a tank, so they run him in here, he takes lots of damage, and they'll drop off his renewal for a couple seconds just to take that extra damage and convert it into energy. So we'll go ahead and throw on Hunter Adrenaline there just for shits and giggles. Now, in the dash polarity, we have, of course, our Nairmon. We have a lot of different options. Again, usually I recommend to people, as usual, Natural Talent if you have it, because it speeds up his casting animations a little bit, which is great. Other than that, Stretch and Reach for that increased range is probably going to be his next big ones. Because having that 175% range is going to be pretty darn useful. Beyond that, if you don't have anything more, you can do Flow for extra energy pool or Streamline for extra energy efficiency. So this is going to be, again, kind of a modest economy survival build. And if you look at your abilities now, your initial damage has gone up by 150 points. The orb's damage has gone up a little bit. The number of orbs has gone up by 1, so you actually get an additional target. Because yes, the orb number could actually be affected by power strength. And that range even affects the angle of hollowed ground, for example. Which I believe you can push up to you can push up to almost 360 degrees. So, on top of that, the costs are all... Oh, and the status chance is 19%, so that's nice. As you can see, the bleed out slow has been increased. The energy duration has been dropped to 1 and 1.6. Now, you can't get more health orb drop percentages. That's just something static. But you can increase your armor reduction, and that's increased by power strength, which I'll show later. But for now, just know that that's kind of a nice little economy build for Oberon Prime right there. This little simple build. Now, if you wanted something a little bit more beefy, you can do this for the higher range, low efficiency, and that gives you quite a bit of... that gives you 360 degree angle on your hollowed ground, so you drop it, everything around you becomes a hollowed ground. And it gives you an incredible amount of range for your orbs, it gives you an incredible amount of range for your renewal, it gives you an incredible amount of range for your reckoning. But it's more for the zones effect, so if you were going for a zoning or for a low healing, this is kind of what you'd be going for. And this could even be improved a bit. If you're going for pure power strength, which this is what this build is designed for, which is pure, absolute, disgusting power strength, this is what you'd do. And, of course, still charge, because why not? So what does this do for your abilities? Well, it brings it up to 92% armor reduction. The blind duration is useless, and most of these are useless. But look at that initial heal. Look at that armor buff. Even if the armor buff is only for 3 seconds, it's 618. And then, of course, your status chance is almost 50% with this. The damage is pretty good. The duration of hollowed ground is really low. But once again, then you have 18 orbs. So, and look at that initial damage from the smite. So basically, this is a build that really hits hard. So we'll go ahead and show that build really quick one more time. And as you can see, it's pretty intensive. But something kind of interesting about this actually can be improved further. A little bit of teasing, which I'll show in a bit. But for starters, we're just going to showcase what this build can do to level 30 enemies. It's kind of disgusting. Look at that. Look at that. it crits. It crits. It orange crits. I think it's actually because I got the I got a buff from my pet for increased critical chance, which is insanely stupid, but it's pretty awesome. The Grineer are one of the best people to hit with Oberon's abilities because they have a pretty low, because they're armor based, and they're so which means that their armor takes additional damage from puncture. So we're gonna bump these guys up to 135, and I'm gonna show you just how disgusting this actually is. So you saw the damage output of that, and now you see these, pretty minimal, right? But now if I reckoning them and do it again, well, that's a little different. Huh. I think the armor debuff is not working as intended. That might explain a couple things, actually. So, in a nutshell, because that's a little bit weird that this is not working as intended. Let's go ahead and kill these guys with my Reaper Prime. That can one-shot their face. So weird that they are taking, like... Look at that. Even with... Ugh, it's disgustingly powerful. But yeah, it's supposed to. His fourth ability is supposed to remove armor, but there might be some factors that I'm not seeing that might be playing against that. So for the most part, we're just going to go ahead and look at his augments. Which I actually don't know if I have any of his augments, so we'll take a look. I have all of his augments, which is fantastic. Making it a little bit easier. So, followed Reckonings. The enemies affected by Reckoning spawn zones that increase armor. Okay. Enemies affected by Reckoning spawn zones. So, my spawn zones will now increase armor by 250 for allies, but inflicts additional 150 damage to enemies over 10 seconds. So, to kind of show that, we'd remove Bleeding Expertise quick. And we'll go ahead and simulate these enemies again. So we'll go ahead and Reckoning Field. So while I'm standing in them, I'm getting additional power. They're taking additional damage. Again, these are high-level enemies, so that's not like a huge deal for them. Which is extremely frustrating, but what can you do? But allies that stand in it will have an additional armor buff, which is really, really handy. And it does, of course... Well, hold up. Am I remembering this incorrectly? Because I think I am, actually. Yeah, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. So, the way this ability augment reads is, it's a Reckoning augment. A Reckoning augment. So, basically, I have to use Reckoning, which is his fourth ability. Let's take a look at that again. Forget all of that happened. There they go. See, look at that extra damage they're taking. And in a way, they're actually getting a little bit more damage. So I could say that maybe the armor debuff is actually working in that instance. Maybe. Alright. So beyond that one, which does a lot more damage and is really a nice little effect, we have... On top of that, we have... Hollowed Eruption, which Hollowed Ground can be cast again to consume it and deal the remaining damage in a burst with a 30% chance of a radiation proc. So showcasing this one's going to be a little different. So, we'll go ahead and head out over here. Oh, my cat's getting me a critical chance. Oh boy. So we'll go ahead and drop that, and then I can activate it again, as you can see, to do a pretty good detonation. It's something that I see a lot of people running in defense missions and stuff, because it's a good way of getting big chunks of burst damage out, and since it's radiation, it's really, really effective against large groups of enemies. And as you can see, that was actually far more effective against them than anything else. So, that's Hollowed Eruption. Phoenix Renewal is one I don't want to showcase because it hurts. Taking fatal damage while under the effects of renewal will instead heal you or your allies to 50% health, so it brings you back up to back up to half health, and the effect only triggers once for each ally every 90 seconds. So it means once every minute and a half, you can go ahead and ignore death, which is pretty damn awesome, actually. A lot of people will run that for arbitrations, sorties, high-level missions. Smite Infusion is his last ability, which is really a nice one. It gives radiation damage onto allied attacks if you smite them for 28 seconds at the base rank. It can get much higher than that. And the amount it actually adds is augmented by power strength. So that can get really kind of interesting and unique. Alright, so the next thing we're going to look at here real fast is we're going to look at exactly what enemies drop Oberon parts. Because it's a little one of those things where sometimes you'll pick up sometimes you'll pick up a random part from Oberon and it'll be like, ta-da! And you're like, okay, so where did I get that? Who dropped that? Who should I be farming for this particular Warframe? And it's kind of one of those things that's a little hard to determine. And of course, there's data mining people can do. There's also the open drop tables that are really nice to have. But since we're doing this and we've done it for all the other Warframes, here's the acquisition location. So it's Eximus units. All Eximus units can have a 1% chance to drop a component blueprint. So the components, now of that 1%, 38% of them are chassis, 38% of them are neuropics, and 22% of them are systems. So you're nearly guaranteed a full set every 3,000 or so, between 1,000 to 3,000 Eximus units killed. Now, that's all Eximus units. So actually one of the best places to get Oberon parts actually is doing infested runs, because a lot of infested become Eximus units as time progresses. So it's actually one of the easiest ones that you can get a hold of. Now again, it does take time, it does take a lot of farming, and since that is a 1% chance, it gets a little bit stressful. Alright, so everyone, if you've enjoyed watching this video, please leave a like. If you want to give me a comment if you think it was really good, or subscribe if you want to see more In a Nutshell videos. If I missed anything, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. And until next time, this has been In a Nutshell, and thank you everybody so much for watching.